Let me start. As for the future, as the poet Auden would say, we would rather be ruined than changed. We would rather die in our dread than climb the cross of the moment and let our illusions die. We often have problems with the future. Of all the time capsules, of all the time segments, the future more than anything else probably terrifies us, or is most likely to. Because the past we know, at present we're dealing with it, but the future, oh boy. So what is the problem with the future? Well, if we stay and stare at the problem, the future's going to pass us by. So maybe we ought to change our stance. Maybe instead of saying, well, what's my problem? What if I said, where's my power? Now that changes things right away. Because now you're a real candidate for the future's potentials. You can only live if you face the future. If you don't have a future, you're going to die in the present. That future is imperative. Because that's where you're at, ultimately. You're not here, you're in the future yet. The Greeks had an interesting term for it. They call it telos, T-E-L-O-S. They said we were basically a telos creature, telos entity. We look to the future to draw us beyond the limitations of our present. So we are naturally geared to the future. But we don't always acknowledge that. I wonder why. Some years ago, at Harvard, that's that little school back east in Boston, Professor Ellen Langer created a unique experiment. She sent out a request to 75 to 85-year-old men. Come for a free week at a luxurious retreat in a rural seclusion of New England. After the orientation, the chosen applicants were divided into two groups. The first group went on a 5-day holiday. The men recognized the interior as they entered the lodge. There were the everyday newspapers, the TV guide. They were told not to bring anything in particular except their toiletries. They could bring their jogging shoes if they wanted. However, they asked one little thing. They said, would you reminisce of about 20 years earlier, just occasionally? Don't take it too seriously. So they were to live in the present and to speak about the past as past. Let it go. They were encouraged to assist each other in their reminiscing. So that was one group. Now the second group was sent to a different lodge. And as they entered, they were astonished because here was a duplicate of the American interior of 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Various props and paraphernalia from that period, including magazines, Look, Time, furniture, slides, radio music, Bing Crosby, Perry Como, newspapers of that period, videos comprised of their environment at that period. They were asked to put on the clothes of that period provided for them so that everything that they could be reminded of would place them back into that period. They were to move into this time reversal, as it were, and they were to act out as if they were then. All conversation was about then. They were to forget about where they just left, as best they could. They were to generate and share as much as possible the ideas, the feelings, and the actions that belong to that period of time. So regardless of their current mobility and flexibility, they were to reinvest themselves with the behavior, the autonomy, the creative thinking that befits a man of that age. They were to help and engage each other in reliving the lifestyle of 20 years ago. They did this for 1 week. During that time, physical and psychological measurements were taken regarding both groups, before, during, and after. As a result, they were compiled, and the results equally were astonishing. Drastic bodily and mental changes emerged in the group that went back to the past. They carried their posture more erect, standing and sitting. Fingers lengthened and regained joint flexibility. Whereas a third of the control group that were in the present showed a decrease. Hearing and sight were actually keener. Hand strength increased. Response to recognition tests were quicker and more accurate than the control group. Memory advanced. Overall performance on intelligence tests improved, while a quarter of the control subjects declined. Everyone looked and felt younger than when they started. Before and after pictures were rated. They all looked younger. So from this study, the decrements of aging are not as fixed as we would assume. Aging, like stress and time, is more an inner evaluation, perhaps, about the world around us than an objective fact. Time's so-called ravages may be just as malleable as our beliefs about what the future holds for us. Here were two groups who, while living in ordinary time, went back to the past in different ways. The control group retrieved the past as past, fully keeping in mind that they had aged 20 years beyond those memorable days. Theirs was only a postcard visit. History for them was irreversible. The experimental group, on the other hand, used the earlier time as a future benchmark. They reframed their energy. They created themselves into a new portrait. They defied the conventional verdict of aging by taking time under control and making the future something different. For 5 days, they intentionally collapsed the past into their present future. And they reaped the benefits of that energizing. Instead of submitting to conventional time, they resumed being mindful of their existence heading into the future. They chose to dissolve their belief in 2 decades of aging. If unprepared citizens could demonstrate such deconditioning, perhaps we who suffer from premature aging could likewise benefit. To that, I would like to join another story. Gentleman you've all heard about. His name is Scrooge. He appears in Charles Dickens' famous Christmas tale. And as you recall, Scrooge, on Christmas Eve, was heading home after condescending to allow his number one accountant, Bob Cratchit, to have the next day off. Hey, it was Christmas. And with money? Wow. Hey. So Scrooge goes home to his wonderful cold house, and there he has his famous gruel. I love that term, gruel. On the way home, of course, there were a few people that asked for some generous, or perhaps a token, remembrance of the day, and they were greeted with the usual bah humbug. Get a job. And so now as he sits eating his gruel, he hears a sound. That's strange. This house is vacant. In more ways than one. And suddenly through the door doesn't even bother to open, there's this sort of ethereal individual coming through, all in chains and heavy weights. My God, it's his old partner, Morley, who died some years ago. And in a very spooky voice, he warns Scrooge, you still have a chance to avoid the punishment I have to endure. Scrooge thinks, what's wrong with this gruel? And he warns him, he says, you have a chance, provided you pay attention. And Scrooge, in order just to sort of to get along with him, he says, well, what's up? Well, you're going to be visited by 3 spirits. Do I have to? Yes, you have to. You all know what those spirits represent. Time. The past, the present, and the future. Scrooge, of course, would like to make appointments later down the line, but he can't evade it. So Morley disappears, and of course the spirits are to start showing up at midnight. Scrooge hopes that he was just hallucinating. And finally the clock strikes midnight. And all of a sudden, whoosh, there's this cheerful individual. Well, Mr. Scrooge, are you ready for your journey? No. Well, we'll take it easy. But never mind, you have to go, sir. And off they go. This is Christmas past. Now notice, the mind itself, our minds, tend to only go in one of 3 directions: past, present, and future. I don't know whether Dickens knew what he was doing, but it was certainly a marvelous metaphor. Anyway, we go back to the past with Scrooge, don't we? And there he sees himself, as we sometimes do in our meditation. Thoughts come before us from the past. Sometimes vivid, sometimes vague. But here was an extremely concrete, vivid imagery of himself as a child. He remembered the trials he had at times, the loneliness, but how much his sister would take care of him, the compassion she showed him. And suddenly he was slightly moved. There's still a heart in this guy. And he remembers, and he talks to the spirit next to him. There's my sister. Look how the concern she has. She did have, didn't she, Scrooge? Oh, yes. And then it keeps going, and finally he sees himself as going to business school. He becomes a young adult. He meets Morley. The 2 of them decide to open up a business together, and he falls in love. Ooh, that really stirs his imagination for the moment. He sees the woman he had fallen in love with. He never fell out of love either, but that was suppressed. And he looks at her and he realizes, did I make the right choice? But she decided she was concerned about the direction he was moving, the way he was doing it with his partner. It made her uncomfortable. And she knew if she'd have to spend the rest of her life with this gentleman, she didn't want to feel this way. Would he possibly reconsider? And of course he wouldn't. And if she couldn't keep up with him, well, that was too bad. So he broke the engagement. And now he wonders. And suddenly they're back in the room. Scrooge figures that's enough for tonight. And the young man who was there says, sorry. He vanishes, and suddenly there's another ghost, spirit of the present. Come on, Scrooge, let's go out in the city and live a little bit. Get out of this room. And he takes him out. And suddenly he's in the midst of the marketplace. All kinds of people, burgeoning, Christmas shopping, children laughing, snowball flowing. And he sees the city. You know, he never did before. He was too busy counting his coupons. It was negotiable bonds. So he's out and he's looking around, and suddenly he finds himself outside Bob Cratchit's house. And he's peeking in. He's asking questions of the Christmas present. He says, who's that? Well, that's his son. But he's crippled. Yes. And he's not meant to be here very long. What? Why? He's just a young boy. Well, he needs an operation. Well, why doesn't he have it? Because his father doesn't make enough money, Scrooge. Oh, not my problem. And so next episode, he's over at his nephew's house, who he's always constantly being invited to every Christmas, but he's above all that. And he sees the cheerfulness and the warmth in the house, and he thinks, And they're always asking, I wonder how Uncle Scrooge is. He can't communicate. All he can do is see. And the next thing he knows, he's back in his room. Now, he really wants the appointments to end. Because if there's one time zone you don't want to know about, the future. Isn't that strange? We fear the future because we see it as a problem. We forget our power. The next episode literally terrifies him. He's in a graveyard. Next to him is this hooded being with the skeleton-like hand who doesn't speak. And he just sort of moves slowly across the grass here, and they're coming to an open grave. And at that moment, Scrooge hears some voices, because you see the graveyard is next to the city square. Because of the cobblestone acoustics there, you can hear a voice at night rolling down the streets. He recognizes they're two businessmen. Yeah, I heard he died. Hey, no loss to us, huh? Leaves the market wide open. Knows those two. They're his competitors. Respected, of course. But at the same time, he realizes they don't care for him at all. He realizes, too, it's not their fault. He has no friends. Nobody gives a damn that he's heading to the grave or has died. This all hits it. It all comes at once at him. And there the specter points out the name on that tombstone, Ebenezer Scrooge. Scrooge totally rejects this. I don't want it. And the next thing he knows, he's hugging the bedspread. It's Christmas morning. He made it through the night. He can't believe it. He's alive. He's alive. Oh, my God. He gets up and he starts dancing. In comes the housekeeper, and she looks at him, and she thinks he's lost it completely. He wants to dance with her, and she goes screeching out of the house. Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's just so glad to be alive. He dashes over to the window, throws it open. Hey, son, you down there, yeah. Go over to the butcher there and get that goose. Take it to Bob Cratchit's house, and don't tell him who sent it. And if you get back here in 5 minutes, I got a gold doubloon. Scrooge, gold doubloon to a delivery boy? He's really lost it. So what happened? Scrooge rejected his past and his present. And the moment you do, you're open now to the future. You release your attachments. You now embrace the future mind with all its possibilities. You don't lose your shrewdness, your talents, your skills. You put them in a different context. They're no longer reinforcing the smothering life you had, in which you ignored humanity as well as your own dignity. Scrooge, in that fatal moment, made the right choice. He said no to death. He didn't want what death summarized for him, which was the complete baggage of his karma, spelled backwards, C-H-O-I-C-E. Now he was open to the future. Now he had a future mind. Another story. One day, King Arthur had to go and defend a certain part of his territory. He was an excellent fighter. He still had all his prowess. He was only 42. In battle, though, he didn't realize he was up against a superior foe. He defeated him. Didn't wound him, but just defeated him. But the foe recognized who Arthur was, and he said, "Sire, I'm not in the habit of eliminating kings. I'll give you a choice." And Arthur said, "All right, what's my choice?" "Well, you can either die on the battlefield, since I have the advantage, or I'll make a wager. I will give you 1 year to find out the answer to my riddle." "What is your riddle, sir?" "What is it that women want more than anything else?" Arthur accepted the terms. He had 1 year to find that out, or else he had to return to the same battlefield and take the consequences of losing his head. So he goes back to the castle, and he calls all the round table in. He says, "Fellas, I've got a dilemma. I hope you can help me out." So everybody's assigned, go out and find out what is it that women want more than anything else. So they come back. Oh, they want a castle. They want a Camaro. They want to take a vacation. All these. And Arthur senses, no, this is not it. This is not it. They want a pension. No. They want land. No. Nothing works. The months tick off. What can he do? Nobody has the answer. And Arthur, being a man of integrity, says, sorry, fellas, I have to go meet my fate. I made the bargain. I'm a man of my word. So, all right, Arthur, we'll miss you. So he gets up on his steed and off he goes through the forest, the deep forest. It's a fall time. He's going to meet his future now, his death. All of a sudden he hears a cackle. He turns, and there's one of the most hideous women he's ever seen. Front teeth missing, the others are all black. She just peers at him with all straight hair, mud stained, giving off a incredible, odious aroma. Even the horse turns away. And says, hello, sire. I hear you're on your way to your death. He thinks, it's a witch. Yes, well, you're not too cheerful about it. Well, why should I be? You haven't taken very good care of me. Well, that's obvious. What's your pleasure, sire? Well, I doubt if you could help. Oh, don't be too sure. Well, I got defeated last year. The man proposed a riddle. He said I could have my life back if I could tell him what women want most. He starts cackling again. Sire, I know the answer. All of a sudden, life comes running in through his veins. You do? Oh, sure. Would you mind sharing it? Oh, not at all, sir. For a price. Ooh, good days. And what would that price be? Well, sire, I know you're a busy man. And after you are a married man anyway. I don't want a married man. But I want the handsomest knight at your round table. You give me your word, I will tell you the answer to your riddle. He says, okay. But I have to find out if my knights would do it. All right, you better hurry back and ask them. So he rushes back to the castle, calls the round table together and says, fellas, here's my dilemma. What do you think? Of course, sir, I've got an appointment, I need to. But all of a sudden, Sir Gawain, the most charming of the knights, says, sire, I love you, my liege. I love you with my life. I will gladly marry the hag. Okay, so Arthur rushes back and she's waiting for him. Well, did you get him for me? Yes, I did. You will marry Sir Gawain. Oh, goody, goody, goody. She knew him by reputation. All right, what's the answer? Oh, the answer you want. All right, the answer is quite simple. What do women want more than anything else? Their way. He thinks, So he goes and he meets his foe and he says, Knight, I have the answer. He gives it and he says, very good, Arthur. You're a free man. You're a very clever man to have found that out. I won't ask you how you did, but I'll respect your answer anyway. So they go back, and there's Gawain thinking, oh my God. But on the way back, of course, guess who has to accompany Arthur now back to the castle? And as they come, the people look, oh my God, who is this? What has happened to this poor woman? And so all arrangements are made, and she is truly a hag. Oh, God. Most of the animals walk in a different direction, Even the dogs won't go near her, They're scared stiff. So the wedding day has come. The ceremony is performed. And now it's the wedding night. Oh, everybody's, in tears over poor Gawain. Gawain takes his spouse into the wedding chamber. And he gets into his gown, and she says, "Will you excuse me? Take all the time you want." And she goes into the bathroom, or whatever, and he's waiting and waiting. And a few minutes later, an enormously beautiful woman walks out. And he's astonished. "Who are you?" "I'm your wife." "Come on now. What happened? What'd you do with her?" No, you don't understand, Gawain. I'm your wife." "But I know. You see what happened some years ago? An evil sorcerer put an enchantment upon me so that I would shift during the 24-hour period of each day. I would become repulsively ugly during the day and what you see by night." "Oh my God. And what is your name?" "My name is Ragnail." He's just still flustered. He doesn't quite know what to do with her. And Ragnail smiles and says, "Gawain, you have a choice. As my husband, you must decide if you want me beautiful by night and ugly by day. So all your friends will then shun me and feel sorry for you. Or, if you don't want them to pity you, I will be what I am now by day and irretrievably ugly at night. Which do you want? You decide." Can you imagine the dilemma? He's sitting there, looking at her in all her marvelous beauty. He takes a deep breath, diaphragmatically, of course, and he announces to her, "This is not for me to choose. I want you to be the way you want to be. It is your choice." Wow. Gawain does not try to decide Ragnail's life for her. Instead, he says, "You are the powerful one. It is your choice, not mine." And with that, the spell entirely is broken. She is now who she really is, 24 hours a day. Why? Because he honored something in her that is in each one of us, that enables us to make the future what we want. He honored her sovereignty. That is, he honors her freedom to be her true self. That's what love is all about. He acknowledged her power and her integrity. And there's a sacred manuscript that we have in this country that reminds us a little bit of that. It goes back to 1776. It's called the Declaration of Independence, in which we are said to have inalienable rights. That's what drove King George III crazy. It wasn't the taxation that they weren't paying. That was just the front piece. You have to remember, in those days, there was only one sovereign. It was the monarch. It was the king. How dare these 13 colonies of cast-offs are saying they're equal to me? Essentially, that's what we were saying in that declaration, and that's why I consider it a sacred manuscript, because it's the first time in the West that ever happened. We finally started to become of age as a people. Now, what we've done with it since is something else, but the point is it's there. That's our heritage. To me, that's sacred. It's like saying God so loved the world that you were sent here too. It's a recognition that I want to honor your sovereignty. I want to treasure who you are as you are, not as I want to impose on you. So when we come to that recognition, then we will have the freedom to make the future mind what we want it to be, because it's an acknowledgement of what we already are. Sovereign, immortal, all-powerful. That's what I recognized in this gentleman for 25 years. It took me a long time to get there. I'm a slow learner. But I realized that's what it was all about. We are reclaiming our future by acknowledging our sovereignty. Now, what's this got to do with spirituality? What's this got to do with our humanness? Very simply. Let me, if you don't mind me, a quote from an interesting gentleman from the 14th century. Spirituality is not to be learned by flight from the world, by running away from things, or by turning solitary and going apart from the world. Rather, we learn an inner solitude, wherever or with whomsoever we may be. We must learn to penetrate things and find the divine there. He went on to say, people should not worry as much about what they do, but rather about what they are. Here comes the sovereignty. If they and their ways are good, then their deeds are radiant. If you are righteous, then what you do will be righteous. We should not think that holiness is based upon what we do, but rather on what we are. For it is not our works which sanctify us, but we who sanctify our works. Different perspective. His name, Meister Eckhart. Now, how can we put this into a practical context? How can you reclaim your future? How can you begin to acknowledge your sovereignty? And we do this by degrees. It's not by a mechanical off and on. We're organic. We grow into it. In our tradition, Swami Rama told me, we don't make you instantly enlightened. We gradually bring you there so that you can finally climb out of the last fear you have, which is fear itself. The day you become fearless, you are now eligible for enlightenment. Because now you've left everything gone like Scrooge. You've rejected anything that would hold you back from the future, which is your eternality, your immortality. So how do we do it? Very simple. Very simple. Here's how we do it. I want you all to close your eyes, if you will. Play along with me for a few moments. Let's see what we can discover in this moment. Take a few deep breaths. Keep your eyes closed so that you can generate the internal dynamism I'm going to help you get to. With your eyes closed, I want you now to imagine the future you want for yourself. Put it 5 years from now. See it in concrete images. Create the area you would like to live. No holds barred. Where would you really like to live if you could? What does the house look like? Or the condo? Create it. What's it made out of? What colors would you like to have it? Is it bi-level? One story? Is there a large yard? Is there shrubbery? Pack it in. Now go inside. What would it look like the moment you opened the door? What are you into the living room? Small vestibule. Create what you want. What's the interior like? Is it wood? Is it some other material? In what color? And how about, are there rugs or is it a wooden floor? Do you have a fireplace? What do the lamps, the drapes, the curtains, what do they look like? Where does this room lead to when you turn left or right? Into another room or to the kitchen? Create in that house what you want it to be. You have that power. Now, do you have a basement? And what would be in the basement? Is there a rec room? Is there a reading room? Create those as you would like them. Sort of lighting. You have a guest bedroom or more. You have a garage. What's in that garage? What kind of car do you want? You want a car. What model? 4-door, 2-door? What color? What brand? Who is with you? Are you alone? Significant other? Your spouse? Who? Are the children with you? Or are they all grown up now, in a way? What sort of hobbies are you entertaining? What would you really like to do? Are there certain adventures in arts, crafts, sciences? How about places to visit you've always wanted to go to? Fly off to Europe, Australia, wherever. See yourself having the funds and the time to explore the mysteries of these faraway lands if you wish. What sort of friends are gathering around you? Do you belong to certain clubs now or certain organizations? Are you contributing to the city or the area, the suburb where you live? What kind of organization would you like to get interested? Are there some you might like to even start? See the kind of contributions you feel comfortable you'd like to get interested in exploring. Open yourself up. By the way, are you employed? Would you like to have your own little business? What would that look like? Would you like to go back to school and take some new courses that you've always wanted to try but you didn't have the time, perhaps the funds? See yourself being involved in that way. This is your future. You're envisioning it. Now feel that. Feel it in your bones. Don't just see it as an abstraction in your mind, but actually see yourself present there. See yourself actively involved in all of that in some way in your imagination. Feel it. Know that this is what you would want if you had the opportunity. If your future could come to be as you see it, this is what you would truly want. You can always change it, as we do. We can always make modifications, alterations. We can subtract or add. But at least we have the fundamental portrait of the future. Now, thank your mind for bringing that about. Come back to me here. I want you to open your eyes for a moment. A vision needs one more ingredient. It means you have to fall in love with it. You don't want to be noted for your past. You've got miles to go, huh? So that's what yoga is all about. It's about learning to live as a sovereign being. He was the perfect example. He embodied it. The tools of yoga are for self-transformation, so that it brings about a sense of what sovereignty is all about. You don't have to check in with the rules, you check in with yourself. You learn to trust that conscience. So it's like Maynard yesterday. It's primary, it's progressive, it's chronic, and it's irrevocable. It's like Mike saying it's a jumping meditation into space, and suddenly you're flying. And when you create this future, and as you go about it, I warn you now, I have to give you this warning, otherwise I'd feel bad. The moment you walk out of here tonight, you're going to start to see things that are going to remind you of that, and you're going to have a choice. Do you want to fulfill that or not? Because you've changed the way you look at life, because you've opened yourself up to the future, and you've started to become a sovereign being in a deeper way than you were before. And as you go, here's what's going to happen. People you meet are going to be, at times, unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Love them anyway. And if you do good, which you will, people will accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Do good anyway. And if you are successful, which you will be, you will still make false friends and true enemies. Succeed anyway. And the good you do today may be forgotten tomorrow. Do it anyway. And honesty and frankness will make you vulnerable. Be honest and frank anyway. You will discover that you may favor an underdog instead of following a top dog. Fight for some underdogs occasionally. And when you spend these years building your future, it might even be destroyed overnight. Help people anyway. Give the world the best you have, and you might even get kicked in the pants. Give the world the best you've got. For you are becoming someone the world has never known. Be that person anyway, for you are the future mind.